Hi everyone, and welcome to a bit of a different video that I'm putting together today as a 1,000 subscriber special. I've been plugging away on the channel for nearly 10 years now, so it's pretty cool to finally hit this mark, and a massive thanks for everyone who's stuck around watching my videos in that time, especially if you've been here since the days of little 14-year-old me filming on the iPhone 5.
Well, what an adventure!
As you'll know, a huge part of my content over the years has been exploring untouched wilderness waterfalls in Tasmania. So today I thought I'd go through and count down my 10 favourite wilderness waterfalls in Tasmania. Now, I'm defining a wilderness waterfall as one with no track or just a faint track to reach, all deep within the Tassie wilderness and bush. All these falls are documented on our website, and quite a lot of them are in videos on my channel, so check those out if you want more information. But without any further waffle, onto the list. Fraser Falls in my head is kind of the overlooked neighbour to the famous Montezuma Falls. Deep in West Coast rainforest, if you head over the Montezuma suspension bridge and along the four-wheel drive track, you might be lucky enough to spot some tapes heading up into the bush. These tapes lead along a faint trail to the old Fraser Creek hut, and after an hour of walking up the steep slopes, followed by a steep scramble into a gully, you reach the foot of the impressive 40-metre falls, seemingly worlds away from civilisation. The Weld Valley is home to some really cool waterfalls, with Reuben Falls the best known, but what is less well known is that further upstream on Isabella Creek is another similarly sized waterfall. Isabella Falls is a powerful single drop of 25 metres in totally untouched rainforest, requiring one of the more intense bushbashing missions I've ever undertaken to reach. 2 hours of bushbashing each way to cover 4 kilometres return through thick rainforest brings you to the falls, which are worth every bit of effort required. If this was a list of the most romantic waterfall stories in Tasmania, this would come out streets ahead on top. The story goes, an exploring couple were trekking through the bush in the 80s and found 2 waterfalls, naming them Blossom and Sunshine Falls after their pet names for each other. Well, Blossom Falls is better known as Nelson Falls today and is very well developed now, but a few hundred metres upstream, Sunshine Falls is nearly completely unknown. A challenging walk, first scaling Nelson Falls, then negotiating some steep banks is required, but the powerful 20-metre Blossom Falls are a spectacular sight year-round. Adamson's Peak is perhaps the mecca of Tasmanian waterfalls. We have tracked literally dozens of major falls on the mountain in addition to the well-known Adamson's and Creekton Falls, and one of these is the gorgeous Esperance Falls. A graceful 30-metre plunge, then spreading over a wide lower drop, the falls are one of the most photogenic in the south of the state. This is another of our classic bushbashing missions, 6 hours return with no trace of human activity through dense, beautiful rainforest covering about 3 kilometres in each direction. The turning point on a 3-day off-track mission over the rugged Jubilee Range, when we arrived at the spectacular 45-metre single-drop falls with a rainbow arcing across, we thought surely we were the first to lay eyes on these incredible falls. Well, turns out photographer Grant Dixon beat us to the punch a few years earlier, but I'd be surprised if this place sees another visitor this decade, unless one of you guys wants to take up the challenge. 50 kilometres return, nearly entirely off track over 3 days, with the final scramble descending 200 metres vertically over a horizontal distance of 200 metres. It really lived up to the billing as one of the great wilderness waterfalls in Tassie. The second entry on the list from the waterfall-packed Adamson's Peak. I'll always remember Peak Falls for being not the longest, but the most intense scrub-bashing mission I've ever done. To cover just 800 metres as the crow flies from the end of an abandoned road took 2.5 hours, thankfully broken up by the also impressive Catwalk Falls at the halfway point. But this was an experience of all the worst bits of off-track hiking. Horizontal scrub where you could throw yourself in any direction and go nowhere, deep cutting grass and steep scrambles, but a spectacular 50-metre free-leaping waterfall in just about the only point on this side of the hill that sunlight hits made it all worth the effort. I already sold the mission with Dixon Falls, but Red Waterfalls is the other major falls we found on the infamous 3-day trek over the Jubilee Range, just a few hundred metres upstream of Dixon. Red Waterfalls just got the nod in my mind as the best of the trip, an incredibly unique waterfall where Porra Creek shoots through a mini slot canyon, then leaps over a triple plunge totaling about 50 metres in height into an amazing red pool. Dropping into the far south on the southern ranges, several years back now we noticed the conspicuously named Many Falls Creek draining Moonlight Ridge, and weren't disappointed when we trekked in and found a magnificent 70-metre high falls draping over a vast slab of limestone, even finding a late morning rainbow when we returned for a second visit. This is another major mission best done as an overnighter combined with Moonlight Falls nearby, a long and steep hike up to Moonlight Ridge followed by a steep bush-bashing mission through rainforest and alpine scrub. There's a reason that when people Google Tasmania's tallest waterfall, they see photos of Montezuma Falls, despite Angel Falls being a cool 52 metres taller at 156 metres high. Dropping off the back of Mount Sarah Jane, Angel Falls is a stunning single-drop waterfall reached by a 22-kilometre return walk or a detour from the Mount Anne circuit. Most of the walk is on a rough track, though the final kilometre involves some tough scrub bashing and a precipitous scramble as you target an outcrop directly across from the falls. Time your visit right, and you could spot an early morning rainbow arcing across and get the spectacular backdrop of Mount Sarah Jane, making for one of the most underrated and iconic Tasmanian waterfall images made famous by Martin Hawes back in the 80s. Before getting to top spot, there are a couple of honourable mentions I want to shout out. Now, I could have made this video without mentioning Vanishing Falls, which is an incredible karstic waterfall deep in the southwest that is top of my bucket list. However, it's a 10-day off-track walk to reach, and even for me, that is a little bit of a stretch, but I'm sure I'll get there one day. Now, 3 waterfalls in one I'm kind of including as well in the Norald Ranges in the southwest, and that's Abscuda, Skew and La Marcia Falls. Now these are towering waterfalls coming off the Norald Ranges, and they're relatively accessible. There's no track, but it's not that hard of a walk. It's just very, very remote. I'm hoping to maybe get there later this year. No images exist of La Marcia Falls on the internet, a couple of Abscuda and Skew, and they look spectacular, but stay tuned. And I'm sure there's heaps more untouched wilderness waterfalls up in the west especially that I haven't been to yet, but again, that's a project for this winter, so stay tuned. Unless maybe you've actually been to Vanishing Falls, in my mind there can really only be one answer when it comes to the most spectacular and iconic waterfall in Tasmania, let alone wilderness waterfall. Plunging 50 metres through a notch in mighty cliffs lining the Vale River, Reynolds Falls is a truly unforgettable sight, only enhanced by the trip in to reach it. Technically this isn't an off-track walk as such, though for much of the way it may as well be, and there are a few places where you'll feel more in the wilderness than here. Allow at least 2 days for the 30-kilometre return walk, and have some well-earned beverages at the Cradle Mountain Lodge when you make it back. Well, that's it, my 10 favourite wilderness waterfalls in Tasmania that I've been to so far. Check the videos out on my channel or on our website with more information. Obviously all these falls are for experienced hikers only, but go at your own risk and happy exploring.